This is the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G. And shout out to my man, J. Sanders, setting the tempo with the thriller sack celebration. Woo! That's exactly how we gonna get it started on the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G on this spooky season edition. Trevor Scales, Jason Fitz here with you, and happy Halloween to you and yours. Happy birthday to me and mine mother, Theresa Scales. I'm not going to tell y'all her age because she'll come up here to Bristol and strike me down, and that's not necessary. But welcome in. We are multi-pronged in our approach in that we are coming to you live on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and the ESPN app, and we are getting you caught up on all things that have happened, everything that's going down right now, and everything that will go down in the primetime matchup.
I'm going to interrupt you and give your mom an extra shout-out. She's raised an amazing young man that happens to be somebody I love to get to work with, so credit to her and the job that she's done, and happy stinking birthday, man.
Thank you.
That is awesome.
Why you got to throw the stinking in there? That's
no, happy stinking birthday was like amazing.
Emphasis. Okay,
yeah, there's that emphasis for the right syllable. That's what we're doing there. Come on now.
I like it. We got some news to update you on as we move through the college football weekend. Trevor Lawrence announced after their win over Boston College that he will not play. According to Dabo Swinney, head coach Dabo Swinney, he will not play against Notre Dame next Saturday. We got a couple Notre Dame fans that might be excited about that, no?
Yeah, with the last name Golick, I think. You know, Golick Jr. is sitting there doing naked cartwheels somewhere on Halloween for it. But I think a couple of things here real quick. One that we need to stress, and that's most important here, isn't when he gets back. It's that he get healthy. Let's remember, there are NFL players, and there are a couple of them, that are still dealing with long-term effects. So, number one, Trevor Lawrence has got to be healthy. But number two, now you've got a situation where the top team in all the land taking on currently the fourth team in all the land without Trevor Lawrence becomes a very interesting sort of issue that we'll get into for how the College Football Playoff Committee will handle it, how Clemson will handle it, and everything else moving forward.
Things got interesting today, no, with Clemson taking on Boston College. You want to start us off?
Let's get some highlights going just so I can show off a little pronunciation. Freshman quarterback DJ Uiagalelei. First career start. I just wanted to show off. I worked all week on that. 11 minutes, first quarter. Sent some pressure off the edge. Quick pass to Travis Etienne. Going to be a theme there. 35-yard touchdown. Great work by them. Second quarter. Etienne grabs the ball, gets loose. Drops it. BC's Brandon Sebastian. Scoop. 97 yards. How many yards in do you get before you say, for the love of God, just give me the points. I need some air, some oxygen. It gives them a 21-7 lead. That's right. We thought maybe this was going to get ugly. Just over 1 minute in the second. BC's John Tessitore under center draws Clemson offsides on fourth down. That was a huge moment and a great moment for one of our colleagues as his son was involved in the play. You'll see more of that later as we go through the show also. BC after the fake and the conversion. C.J. Lewis bobbling with the ball. Beautiful touchdown catch here. 28-13.
And this was just when we felt like, oh, my goodness, this is actually spooky season for real. Like, we might be under some duress.
Everybody was pouring the tea and popping the popcorn and waiting for the drama. But let's remember, football is a two-half game. All right, I'm just saying, let's go back to Uiagalelei as he just gets the motors running. Shows us a little bit of why they are very high on the true freshman, even though he is a freshman. So he gets the big touchdown there. A little over 6 in the third. Rogers with the touchdown brings Clemson closer to 28-26 here onto the fourth quarter. 2-point game, 11:34 to go. Travis at the end, 17 yards for the touchdown. It should be noted, my guy, a career high 264 all-purpose yards in this. So Clemson gets the safety, seals the win on this one. Huge offensive day, again, not just for Travis Etienne, but also for Uiagalelei. 342 yards passing against Boston College, the third most in a player's first career start in Clemson history. They get the big comeback, the biggest comeback you've ever had for them at home. So a big one for them. Now, let's go to Sparty. Oh, everybody was out on Michigan State after losing week one. They ain't gone yet. Oh, big touchdown there by Ricky White, who had himself a day. 30-yard touchdown pass in the second quarter. Oh, we'll look at this one again. Yeah, beautiful day for them. By the way, Ricky White, 196 yards receiving for Ricky White in this one. The second quarter, Rocky Lombardi, still the coolest name I can imagine.
It's so tough.
Connor Hayward, 14-7 lead there. Third quarter, Rocky Lombardi again to who else? Oh, Ricky White, man, the wide receivers were open all day in this one. Michigan's corners were outmatched. Michigan thought they were going to be able to handle them. It was not the case at all. Again, little Ricky White action, the beautiful dive there. Good Lord, look at this one again. Stutter move, gets himself, then just uses the speed. Even the little hold there.
That's what I was getting ready to say. Like, that's an AO1 if I've ever seen one. Don Brown's man defense leading to his demise.
I mean, they were just flat out cheating. Didn't help them. Beautiful catch here. I was a little surprised they didn't review this one in the moment, but looks like he got it.
You're not going to tell me you're not going to overturn it.
I mean, either way. And then after a controversial penalty call, it looked like maybe they were going to back themselves up. But nope. Whoop! Little spin move there, and he says, I can press the O button too. Gets himself inside with the touchdown. Michigan, by the way, now 1-6 at home versus Michigan State and Ohio State under Jim Harbaugh. Sparty with the big win, 27-24 over the Wolverines.
Some might call it an upset. We got another one for you out of the Big 12. West Virginia taking on K-State, and in the second quarter, about 12 and a half remaining. Ollie Jennings, a 5-yard pass from Jared Dagey. 10-3 up were the Mountaineers. Then Winston Wright Jr. on the receiving end of a 15-yard score, and it was all West Virginia all day long. Can we get a little bit of, do we have a little bit more Selly action here? Yes, we do. Winston Wright Jr. on the receiving end of that one, and then just before halftime here,
look at that.
Dylan Tonkery, 18-yard. Excuse me. That was Malik Knowles, 35-yard pass from Will Howard, and then there's the pick. Dylan Tonkery, an 18-yard interception return back to the crib. West Virginia wins 37-10. The Dogs taking on Kentucky, and wasn't a whole lot of scoring in this one. Stetson Bennett puts Georgia up on the board middle of the first quarter, and then your only other touchdown of the day. Zamir White, 22 yards. His 26 rushes for a career high 136 yards on the day. That was his one rushing score. Stetson Bennett, by the way, has thrown multiple interceptions in 2 straight games, but Georgia finds a way to overcome it courtesy of their defense.
He's mailing it in.
Don't do that, Fitz. There's the pick that we talked about. One of a couple on the day for him, but the Georgia defense will hold them down. They win 14-3. Let's move over to our AT&T 5G top performer. It's back in the ACC. I've been long in the camp of give Travis Etienne the daggone ball. With Trevor Lawrence out, evidently the Clemson coaching staff got on board with your boy. Over 260 yards from scrimmage for Travis Etienne, 140 receiving and 84 rushing, and that productivity on the ground gave him the all-time ACC career rushing record. So quite the day for him.
We are going to fight about this decision.
Why? How is this disputable?
A running back giving the top performer to a running back. They were playing BC. Did you not hear what I just said about Ricky White?
The sole reason of the comeback that they had today.
I mean, I'm just saying you got Ricky White going off for Sparty.
Okay, but how
why do you hate wide receivers?
I don't. I just prefer running backs, and there's no shame in that. I will own that.
When you created yourself in video games as a football player, which I had to do. You actually played real football. Well, when you created yourself, did you create yourself as a wide receiver?
No. Why would I do that?
Wide receiver bias. That's what we are fighting here.
Taking away opportunities to touch the ball. So you're cheating yourself. In any case, takeaways off this first set of highlights. Trevor Scales, Jason Fitz, here with you on the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G. And the first thing I want to talk about, going back to the top of the show, Clemson, without Trevor Lawrence, gets the win, largest comeback in quite some time for that program, but they also will be without him next week against Notre Dame. How do you think they fared today, and how do you think that will kind of spin forward?
So I'm going to give a little bit of credit to Tom Luganville. And for anybody that doesn't know Lugs, he was with us this morning on Countdown to Game Day. I got to work with him yesterday on College Football Live, and he does a lot of our recruiting. And when we were talking on College Football Live, he's been around DJ Uiagalelei since 8th grade. So he's been watching him through the whole recruiting process. But the thing he said on CFB Live that kept hitting my brain today was he said, hey, look out for the in-game coaching. Because let's remember that everybody remaining in that quarterback room for Clemson is a freshman. Trevor Lawrence can't even be on the sideline. So there's no guidance. There's no somebody there that's lived it and seen it that can give some sort of expertise. And one thing that Luke said to look out for was in-game coaching was going to be key because there is this ebb and flow to a college football game that as much as DJ's had some meaningful time this year, he hasn't had enough to go through that. That's what we saw in this game. Now, Uiagalelei was not the reason that they were down early on. He played incredibly efficiently, but the impressive thing to me was even when they were down, he didn't change. He didn't press. He didn't do anything differently. He was still himself. So Clemson got, and I think of you every time this happens, when you can get an ugly win. You're the one that says this, and it's really ingrained in my mind. When you can get an ugly win, you get a little bit of a benefit there. I think this was a wake-up call for everybody that they weren't able to play better defensively, specifically against Boston College. But they got everything they needed out of the quarterback position and offensively as a whole.
And speaking to one of our researchers, Josh Boyd, who works with the AC Network intimately, he mentioned that this was a matchup that was destined for a little bit of an exposure for the Clemson defense particularly, because Boston College likes to throw the ball all over the field. And so when you're sort of walking into that buzzsaw of Boston College and knowing that they have the chance to expose the defensive secondary for the Clemson Tigers, that's exactly what they went in there to do, and they sort of capitalized on that. That was my biggest takeaway early on with that defense, not being able to figure it out, giving up 21 points in the first half. We know they scored 28, but obviously 7 of those being on the fumble return for a touchdown. But again, to your point, gritty win, I'll take it, and that's one of those things that the committee will look at, knowing that Joker wasn't in the huddle. That's a big deal, right? And they will take that into account because they are told to on a week-to-week basis.
And such a big thing to stress, they are specifically told to. Like, who is available and not available for any reason in a game is something that the committee is told to factor into whatever they see from the eye test. And we've talked about the fact that the eye test is going to be everything for this committee. Well, what they got from this was a little bit of it's an ugly defensive game, but they'll get away with some of the problems that there were today. And there's another takeaway to what you were talking about with Etienne. I mean, we're reminded that we take for granted the greatness that they have right there in that running back and the diversity, the ability to do so many things on the field for them. I mean, absolutely spectacular. And I'm starting to feel like you could put you at quarterback and still just hand the rock off. Notice I didn't say me. There are limitations. But I feel like what he gives them is really undervalued at times.
Without question. I mean, dude's a 2-time conference player of the year, and he wasn't even getting any sort of Heisman looks, which is one of the most incredible sort of dynamics on that roster. I want to shift a little bit to the Michigan program. We talked about, people not being out and how the committee is supposed to take that into account. Michigan didn't have anybody out, right? Like, to our knowledge, they were at full strength. And here they go on these stages where we expect them to just go in there and handle business. And more often than not, they end up laying an egg. And unfortunately so, even more so, against another one of their rivals.
Well, and there's two big things about this. One is 2020. And when I say that, I don't mean this game. I mean last week. I think what happened here is you have a Michigan State team last week that completely overlooked Rutgers, and they were ready for Michigan. They thought they were going to get ready for that game. They thought they'd cakewalk over Rutgers. They turned the ball over 7 times. It's an embarrassing way for Mel Tucker to start his coaching regime, right? But now what you have on the other side is a Michigan team that I'm not sure that they came in with the same level of aggression that Michigan State came in with. And that was really, Michigan State's defense was flying. And that to me was the biggest takeaway early on from this. So I got to credit Sparty. I got to say, hey, Michigan's got to do better. And then I also got to ask, who is Michigan now?
One identification you can attach to them is they know that they're going to have to lean on their run game. And that's exactly what Sparty came in to take away. And that's what they do every single year. Regardless of coaching regime, that is going to be an identifying factor for Michigan State. They are going to stop the run and force you to just get down in the dirt. Because every time I think of a Michigan State football game, it's foggy out, it's raining, it's messy. Everybody got mud all over their jerseys because all you can do is run the ball, and they will force you even out of that. And when you have the freshman quarterback that you do in Joe Milton for Michigan, right, they're going to lean on that stable of running backs that they have in Hassan Haskins and Zach Charbonnet and just try to get the ball out of his hands as much as possible and lean on that accessory run game. They were incapable of doing that today. Sparty took that away from them and wound up getting a big-time win.
Yeah, and Sparty's offense, by the way, there are wide receivers there that they're making a case for playing on Sundays. And so if Rocky Lombardi, the quarterback, can actually continue to deliver the ball. But I also think that there's going to be a lot of hot takes this week, and we try not to do that.
Yeah.
There is a nuanced conversation about exactly what to expect from Michigan moving forward. And I think we've really seen who Michigan is. Like, Michigan, in fairness, is not Ohio State. So if you're comparing them to Ohio State, you're going to be frustrated every year. Michigan is the type of team that most years is going to lose a couple of games, and they're going to be in the conversation as a top 10 to 15 program that's not going to contend for a national championship. Like, that's just sort of who the Wolverines are. Now, is that acceptable? That's up for Michigan to decide. You know, that's their alumni and their athletic director. They need to speak to that. But that's who Michigan is now.
Without question, you have to understand what tier you're in. And that illustrious tier of Ohio State, Bama, and Clemson, and even Georgia at times, is something that is very hard to achieve on a regular basis. So, as we move on, the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G, Trevor Scales, Jason Fitz here with you. We're getting you caught up on all the things that have happened, letting you know what's going down right now, and our other responsibility to tell you what's going down this evening. And that is one of the things that you see behind us in the Ohio State-Penn State matchup. Make sure you log in, watch along with us, authenticate with your cable provider, 7:30 Eastern on ABC. You can catch that Big Ten matchup, one for the ages. We will enjoy that matchup, and we will get hyped for it, courtesy of Maria Taylor, too.
To beat this type of opponent, you're going to have to play well for 4 quarters.
We got a huge task ahead of us. We've got to go to Penn State on the road and win a night game.
I'm not here to hang with Ohio State. I'm here to beat Ohio State.
Clifford delivers a touchdown, Penn State!
I think Coach Bay has that certain confidence in me, and he trusts me more.
Spins and gets to the end zone.
Both teams have great talent. Whoever just comes in and executes the best is going to win this game.
What's up, guys? I am checking in from Happy Valley, and it's brisk, but not as cold as Minnesota was last week. We just talked to James Franklin. He does a routine lap all the way around the field, and stopped to ask him what he's going to say to his team. And he says coming off that Indiana loss, he's just going to remind them that everyone's dealing with the same issues this season, and really just reminding them that it's all about playing the game that we've loved and known since we were kids. And that's what he's going to remind them. That's the noise you're going to hear here today, being pumped in because, well, there's no crowd. It would be a whiteout normally, but we've got cutouts. So we'll get used to that. We'll get used to the noise, and hopefully we have a great atmosphere for a game. We'll see you guys later.
One time for Maria Taylor checking us in and taking care of us, and we have somebody joining us by the name of Boba Fitz checking in.
This is the way. Is there a way, Trevor Scales, for Ohio State to lose this game to Penn State? Well, there is a way.
Yes.
And that way comes from pressure. The question is, can they get it?
I like that. As we kind of continue on the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G, Boba Fitz in the building and in his setting. He's got the full gear. Like, that helmet is immaculate. We got to work on your armor overall.
I mean, it's one piece at a time. I'm value-oriented. The Jawas, they charge a lot for these things, dude. Like,
that's fair.
It is not cheap to become a bounty hunter. You got to do it one piece at a time. And so I got the helmet. The rest of it, we'll see. Like, I also got to work on the rock solid underneath the...
Yeah. You know? Don't worry about that. You're drawing attention to the wrong things.
Okay, my bad.
You messed up. That's on you.
As I look at this game, though, Trevor Scales.
Yes, please.
I think that it's hard for me to find a way for this Penn State defense to compete against this Ohio State offense. But this is going to come down, my friend, to the ability to disrupt that and disrupt their timing specifically. I'm not sure they can do it, but they're going to have to find a way to get after Justin Fields.
That's exactly right, because we all know that Justin Fields, in his when he's under duress, right, like that is a big factor in getting him off of his mark and throwing off his completion percentage. It drops nearly 25 percentage points when he is under pressure. And so if Penn State can get to the quarterback, kind of disrupt his flow overall, that's one of the chances that they have to win. And on top of that, Penn State is one of the better teams in all of FBS in getting pressure on the quarterback, 5th ranked since the start of last season.
Can we also acknowledge how much different this game would be if it wasn't 2020 in an empty stadium? Nighttime, Happy Valley, maybe they put some creamery ice cream out there for everybody to eat. You know, they've got all of these atmosphere, environment things they could do. I mean, this game feels like one, when we talk about what the playoff committee should consider, I think the entire college football community should remember how much different some of these games look when there's nobody in the stands. We saw a little of it in Michigan State today. We'll see a lot of it tonight for Ohio State, Penn State.
There's the man, Justin Fields. 1 incompletion just last weekend, and it was a drop, to be clear. So this man is looking to kind of make a move even on the Heisman conversation. Knowing that Trevor Lawrence is out not only this week, but also next week, this man has the perfect stage to insert himself even more so than he already has into this Heisman conversation. So we'll see what he can do offensively. But I think that spins well into Boba Fitz. What can Ohio State do? What is the way for Ohio State to get this win?
The way for Ohio State, I'm using this to help me see it, right? The way for Ohio State to get the win is simple. All they have to do is go out and essentially put the ball in Justin Fields' hands. I believe that you mentioned the pressure, and that's the part of the issue for them. But Justin Fields is such a dynamic playmaker that there's an opportunity for them to put up a lot of points here. They're going to put the ball in Justin Fields' hands. By doing that, they're going to put themselves in a situation where I think they can get a bunch of points. And remember, at this point, Ohio State is trying to make a statement every single week that they are the best team in the country. I think they come up a little bit fired up, knowing that there is a window of opportunity to capitalize on whatever momentum could be lost by Clemson. It's a big moment for Ohio State.
We also saw a little bit of Chris Olave there. He will be a large part of Justin Fields' success on the field. So that is the way, courtesy of Boba Fitz. And we appreciate the
that has a nice ring to it, Boba. Like, does this get me in the Mandalorian? You think?
We're going to have to work on a couple different things. Like you mentioned, the body underneath the helmet is another thing.
Okay, well, what if in a world?
No. Stop there.
Okay.
Your pick for the evening. What do you have?
I have Ohio State by at least 2 touchdowns.
I think it gets a little more snug, even though there isn't necessarily a crowd there to kind of sway the momentum of the game.
I'm a bounty hunter. You do not want to disagree with the bounty hunter.
Fitz, you are the least intimidating bounty hunter of all time. So I pick Ohio State in this one. I am rolling with them. I don't know if 2 scores is super comfortable, like 2 touchdowns. I'm thinking more of a 10-point victory. Keep it a little bit snug late. But for those who aren't interested in the fraudulent Mandalorian, you can actually catch the real Mandalorian, available to you now on Disney+. You can catch that streaming now, season 2. Sign up, sign into Disney+. Make sure you get all that straight and enjoy it along with us.
I was told that Baby Yoda was going to make an appearance too.
We're working on it. We're efforting Baby Yoda, the child, making an appearance.
Come on.
Let's talk some more football until we get Baby Yoda in the building. Notre Dame and Georgia Tech. A game out of the ACC that we expected to see Notre Dame kind of roll in. And right here, 8-yard pass from Ian Book to Joe Wilkins, puts the Fighting Irish up 7-0. Then, just at the start of the second quarter, a long scooping score. Zamari Walton, 93 yards. That ball was kind of just camped out there for a little bit, wasn't it?
And the amount of running, again, is there a mercy rule here where they're like, hey, now you got it. You can just save your oxygen.
Right, it's like the equivalent to golf when you see it's 2 feet from the hole. Just we know you got it. It's all good. In the third quarter, Kyron Williams, 4-yard score, puts the Fighting Irish up 24-7, and Notre Dame would continue to roll. 31-13, your final. The Fighting Irish continuing to make their case for the college football playoff.
We had a big game, a rematch of last year's AAC championship game. Cincinnati, Memphis, first quarter. Alec Pierce, 43-yard pass from Demon Ryder. Makes it 7-0. Look at him go up there and just get that. That is spectacular work. By the way, I, on College Football Live, may have said that Cincinnati was going to lose this game. Oops. Taj Washington here, 92-yard pass. Oh, that's it's unfortunate that gets credited as a 92-yard touchdown pass. But look at the speed. Look at the Jets. That's Sunday speed right there. Nobody's catching him with that Sunday speed. He's like, hey, DK Metcalf, call me. That's all he's saying. All right, but Cincinnati was like, well, that was cute, but we're going to get in on this our own. It felt close for a minute, and then Cincinnati was like, nah, we're good. We're good just taking care of business. Let's go up to the fourth quarter. When you get to the fourth quarter at this point, the score is not a misprint.
Oh, good Lord.
You saw there. Look at that. He breaks through. They thought him had him break on through to the other side. 49-10 is your final. Cincinnati doesn't just win. They thump Memphis and make a statement that says, hey, Fitz, you're an idiot.
You could have just gone with, hey, we want to be in the college football playoff, but God, be self-deprecating. Coastal Carolina, they've been quite the story this season, too. They ran rampant over Georgia State. It wasn't even funny at one point. 35-yard score to put them up 7-0 there. Then, C.J. Marable from Grayson McCall. Pistol formation for the chance to clears, little play action, and then over the top we go. Wheel route! Hold that. 14-0. Coastal Carolina. Third quarter action is where we head to next. More Marable. A 2-yard run from him. And again, Georgia State, I'm sorry for you. Harry Lyles Jr., I'm sorry for you. Third quarter, more action. Cameron Brown, 12-yard pass from Grayson McCall. All Coastal Carolina, 51 to not a daggone thing. They improved to 5-0.
All right, we got a couple of score updates here to get you. You see one with 4:27 to go. We will keep you updated on this. There's a lot on the line. Texas is beating Oklahoma State 34-31. We will keep you updated on that as it goes. I promise you that. You don't have to go anywhere. On the other side of this, that is not a misprint. Auburn went in and just whooped up on LSU, 48-11. But all I can tell you, Tigers fans, is remember this: you're still the defending national champions until somebody else takes it from you.
That's something you can hang on to. Right? Like, I guess ain't nobody gonna take last year away from you. We aren't trying to do that here on the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G. We are just here to remind you of kind of what's going on.
Yeah, we're not taking it away from anybody because what Trevor's not telling you is about a football field over is Booger McFarland, who is not pleased about. We will talk to Booger later. He is not pleased about this, and I'm not going to talk any trash that Booger might hear because he's a large and powerful man.
Exactly, man. You might want to calm that down. We ain't even mentioning no names over here. In any case, to go to a couple takeaways from this second set of highlights that we just got into, I want to go back to Notre Dame with, again, a little bit of tinge of Clemson. Knowing that Trevor Lawrence isn't going to be there. We see this matchup on the horizon between these two teams in the ACC. Proverbial favorites out of that conference, right? Like they could end up meeting again in the conference championship at the end of the season. How does this sort of play out in your mind as we look to it?
Well, I think it's a great question because, again, if anybody didn't see the news, Dabo's already ruled Trevor Lawrence out, so he's not playing. So knowing that he's not playing, again, gives the College Football Playoff Committee a little bit of wiggle room. And this is got to be the worst case scenario for a lot of teams that are trying to fight their way into the playoff because we all know how stinking good Clemson is this year. So if they go in, I do believe if Clemson loses to Notre Dame in a close game with their backup quarterback, it's not going to hurt their playoff chances. Whether we like that or not, as a general population of college football fans, doesn't matter. Like, I mean, the committee is going to put value in the fact that Trevor Lawrence isn't playing. Conversely, Notre Dame has been very up and down for me this year to try and figure out. At times, they look dominant. At times, they just look okay. Ian Book is somebody that I thought was going to become dominant. And at times he just sort of looks okay. So I can't figure out how good Notre Dame is.
There's like an expected level of progression that we hoped to see from Ian Book that just hasn't quite panned out. And that's something that I would attribute possibly to coaching or whatever have you. The dynamic under center there between head coach and quarterback is something to kind of just look at on a week-to-week basis. But I will also say that Notre Dame's defense has been up to snuff without question. Their running game also up to snuff. I just wonder how much they can keep up depth-wise with a team like Clemson when we know a 4- or 5-star recruit is coming off that bench.
And before everybody asks me with some sort of Notre Dame take, let me just ask you this. Like, in an honest moment, Irish fans, when you wake up on Saturday, how often do you walk into the room and think, we got this. We're going to crush them. That's how Clemson fans feel basically every stinking game, right? So, like, that's the difference here. It is to go back to what the committee is going to use so much of, the eye test. Like, the eye test is different. I do feel bad a little bit for Notre Dame in this process, though, because if they get the win, I don't want people to qualify it. Like, I'm not taking anything away from how great DJ Uiagalelei was today. I mean, that absolutely incredible performance for him. So if Notre Dame gets it, I still believe it's a quality win. I just think that at some point the committee is going to use all of this as a reason to keep Clemson in the conversation.
Understanding that it's a piece of information, it's a data point to kind of use in the assessment of this team. And again, they mess around and meet them again in the ACC Conference Championship. Trevor Lawrence, God willing, is healthy and back. There's another discussion to be had, courtesy of everybody being at perceivable full strength. This is the season of subjectivity, and we are going to have to operate under that condition as we move through it. Speaking of subjectivity, this is the perfect opportunity for a group of five to get into this conversation. The one that we saw today in Cincinnati, and their performance made quite the case to kind of be in this thing.
I mean, you're 1,000% right, because as we've talked about every week and we sort of joke about, who is the fourth or fifth best team in the country? If you believe that Notre Dame is going to get thumped next week by Clemson, and I think a lot of people do believe that, if that happens, then that is going to be difficult for Notre Dame to come back from easily. And we're looking at a situation now. We'll keep you updated. But as of right now in this instance, Oklahoma State, who feels like they might be the last hope for the Big 12, they're losing. And I'm not sure that there's enough runway left for them to get a quality win.
And that's what I also want to kind of dig in on. Like, should Oklahoma State pull this off, make sure they get the win, walk away with it right? They're still unblemished in their record. Are they even a quality enough team to be a representative over a Cincinnati, over a second SEC team? Are you willing to put them out on the line as the fourth best team in the nation?
The problem is, at least the perception is, especially when there isn't some big opponent outside of conference, the perception is that the Big 12 has not been particularly great this year. So if we don't believe the Big 12 has been particularly great, do we believe that the Big 12 has been drastically better than the AAC? I mean, yeah, I believe they're better teams, but they haven't looked like it on the field.
No, not at all. I think we were looking at Oklahoma and Texas both with 2 losses. Like, we kind of know that neither one of these top-tier programs that we perceive them to be have been a good representative of the Big 12. And if that's what you're trotting out on a yearly basis as your top dogs, how are we then going to rationalize them being in this conversation for best team in the nation?
Well, and I have to continue to look at, and this, follow me here, it's a weird tie-in, but Michigan State, I'm going to give, again, Mel Tucker a ton of credit. First ever win as coach comes against Michigan. That's great. Most people thought Luke Fickell was going to take that job. And Luke Fickell elected not to take that job, to stay at Cincinnati, which to a lot of people was a shocking decision. That says how much he thought they were going to be able to accomplish this year. And they're doing it. I mean, they're absolutely thumping everybody along the way. So I think as strong as that defense is playing, as explosive as their offense has been able to be, the way they decimated a Memphis team that they were 0-2 over the last couple of years, 15-1 against everybody else, 0-2 against Memphis. So I expected, that's part of why I thought Memphis would put up a fight. Like, I thought it would be a matchup issue. But Luke Fickell has built something in Cincinnati, and I believe the reason he chose to stay there was because he knows he's got a shot at the playoff. And why not? If there's ever going to be a year, hell, why not this year?
Yeah, no, without question. So as we kind of dig in on the Oklahoma State conversation here on the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G, with their odds being slim, we'll say, in getting into the college football playoff as they're in this bit of a tussle with Texas currently, their best option for me is that their offense sort of finds another gear. They're going to have to do the things that Cincinnati has continued to do to their opponents at this point. They're going to have to become that explosive offense that they have. Their defense has been playing above their heads this season. Like, they have shown us that there is a quality defense to be recognized out of the Big 12, something that we never used to say every year. But this team is a little bit different in how they're structured. They aren't doing the big plays over the top that we're used to them doing, but they've maintained a level of consistency and production on offense that keeps them with an unblemished record to this point.
In fairness, they have Kansas State coming up next. Then they have Oklahoma. But as we've mentioned, coming into today, Kansas State, 16th ranked team, Oklahoma, 24th ranked team. Those are games that in some years I would think, all right, that's enough skin in the game to get you there. I just don't know that there's at least a perception that those teams are good enough. And that's why I keep looking, for example, at Georgia. Is Georgia going to be able to just sort of swing their way? They have one loss, and then that loss is to Alabama. And that's just, there are certain teams that are judged in a different level. At Alabama, I believe Ohio State. And I'm looking across the board saying, can Oklahoma State get in above Wisconsin? Who knows at this point? I mean, but does Wisconsin have enough quality opponents? Like, this becomes I feel like Charlie Day in Always Sunny, where I'm like, but there's this moment where I'm not sure anybody has the level of opponent left that you can look at and say, that's the team, they went out, they're in.
So we've done a lot of individual focus, right? We've kind of locked in on several different teams that have playoff potential fits. But I would like to open up the discussion just a little bit to kind of get our rankings at large. And I think we do have the perfect device to do so, no?
Five, four, three, two, one, liftoff.
That's right. It's time for the single greatest part of the show every single week because my name's in it. It's Fitz's 5. This is where we go in and, we give you a deep dive into the important things you need to know. Who the top 5 teams in all the land are. We'll give you the top 4 and the first one out because that creates interesting debate and makes fan bases angry.
Nice little nuanced discussion in which can get heated at times, but no, nonetheless, let's get it going.
We are going to be adults, and we are going to do this the proper way with nuance. All right, so let's see what we've got here. We each get to give our top 5, and not a lot of surprises for either of us, not a lot of change here. I've got number 1, Clemson.
Game, right?
I've got at number 2, Ohio State, then Alabama. We disagree a little bit on there, but then it gets a little interesting, Trev, because 4, 5, and 6 we see the same. It's just how we put them in. I got Notre Dame at 4, and then Cincinnati getting their way up into number 5.
I can't hate that whatsoever, especially after the performance that they had against Memphis today. And they've just been kind of winning their games. And if there's any year for a group of 5 to jump into this college football playoff discussion, this is the year. So to run down mine, Clemson at the top, Alabama at 2, Ohio State at 3, Georgia at 4, Notre Dame in the 5 slot. But again, Cincy ain't far off from that 4, 5, 6 range.
So you got Cincy around 6 for you.
Right at 6, frankly.
A lot of praise to what Luke Fickell has done with that Cincinnati team. And frankly, everybody knows he did not take the Michigan State job, as so many people thought he would. I think it's because he knew what he had in Cincinnati this year, which is a legit shot at the playoff. Also, Homer, I mean, you got Georgia in there at number 4. Come on.
It's still cynical at the same time. Like I have them there, but I fully expect them to box this in some regard, and I'm just waiting on it. So I might as well just kind of place them there for the time being.
Oh, I like that. Okay, you know what? Since it's, I'm feeling a little excited today.
A little
festive. Maybe we keep this going. Somebody told me it's Halloween. I don't know. I heard it might be.
It was a late ask of all of us. I think we were all just kind of in the college football space, and we're here now, though.
It's Halloween.
Yes.
So what we should do is we should rank top 5 candy.
Let's talk some candy.
All right, are you ready to rank some candy?
Go ahead.
So, top 5 list, top 5 candies, and this one was easy for me, okay? I got Reese's Peanut Butter Cups at the top. I got Twix specifically, all right, the peanut butter Twix at 2. M&M Peanut Butter at 3. You noticing a theme here?
Yes.
Mike and Ike's at 4. Rolos at 5. Rolos, sneaky in there. I want my caramel.
I'm not mad at that.
Not mad at our headshots either, by the way. Like, we look good right there.
Headshots.
Okay.
My top 5 starts out with Reese's, so we're on the same page there. Big chocolate guy. So all of the top 5 is overtaken by chocolate. Kit Kat at 2, Twix at 3, the regular Twix, by the way, Snickers at 4, and Mr. Goodbar. And I love the fun size Snickers. For some reason, there's just a little bit different of a ratio in nougat, caramel, and peanuts with the surrounding chocolate that I am a fan of, particularly in the fun size. Mr. Goodbar, I'm a country boy, so I love that candy bar, and there's no stopping it for me.
Okay, I noticed you did go all chocolate. I put the Mike and Ike's in there because I like to have a little candy too. But we got the paddles. We got to rate each other.
This is our simple rating system.
So this is good for me, and this is bad. And I'm just going to leave mine here as I rate yours because crunchy things don't belong in any sort of candy at all.
So you're not a fan of texture. Your taste isn't refined.
1,000%. I don't want peanuts. I want peanut butter, right? Like I don't want anything crunchy when I eat my sweets. So like Snickers, hot garbage. I want Reese's peanut butter. Like I don't want, and don't put anything in the peanut butter cups either. I don't want the Reese's Pieces. I don't want any of that.
Reese's Sticks are amazing. Like that's such an underrated candy as well. You're out of your mind. So in any case, as far as my rating for yours, I was going to go here until I saw the Rolo, and I didn't realize that you were 75 years old.
Oh.
So...
That's it. That's where it ends. Ageism will not stand for the candy guy. You're the one that wants peanuts in your dang... Oh, man, Rolos are a delight. I don't care what you say.
This is the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G. You've got a live look over Happy Valley, Penn State Stadium, where Ohio State, Penn State will go down 7:30 Eastern on ABC. Make sure you log in, authenticate your cable provider, and watch along with us. Another gentleman that will be watching along on that primetime matchup is one Booger McFarland. He joins the College Football Show with Trevor Scales and Jason Fitz. And look, Booger, we're going to get right into it, man. We would like to just give you the floor and lament, should you want to, about the LSU game that went down today.
Listen, I'm not going to lament too hard on the LSU game. Here's what I can tell you. The Bayou Bengals are young. They're still kind of living off some of what happened in January against Clemson in the national championship game. It's going to be a rebuilding year, and the defense did not show up today. And so I think that's something you got to look at. Now, all hats, you got to give them to Auburn. They played an outstanding game, and it was a really, really bad performance. But LSU will be back, just not this year.
Understandably so. And real quick, Booger, just to let you know, we've been having a little bit of technical issues, so we will just kind of circle back as soon as we can kind of get that worked out here on the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G. And Fitz, I want to kind of touch on that with you with regards to what went down with LSU today. Go ahead.
Well, and I think that's a reasonable conversation to have about LSU and sort of what's happening, right? Like, because you've got to look at last year and the turnover. And you knew that there was such a huge roster turnover. You knew that there was such a massive turnover just in general around the program that you got to expect some building blocks, some moment where it's got to turn around and get better. But I think the hardest part is how bad it looks right now. And you know, that I keep saying it today. Like, I feel like you should just kick me in the no-no places every time I say it. But I keep saying the eye test, and the eye test is what makes it difficult today. They were also without the quarterback that they expect to have, you know, right now. So I think there's a lot of things stacking up against LSU. But, you know, frankly, nobody wants the excuses. It's still football.
Yeah,
right?
without question. There has to be a level of preparedness that just wasn't there for the Tigers in a lot of different instances. We re-welcome Booger McFarland to the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G. We appreciate y'all being patient with us and our technical difficulties at time, but I want to spin forward to this primetime matchup, Booger. We talked a little bit earlier about the necessity for pressure by the Penn State defense in order to get Justin Fields off of his spot to at least have a chance at winning this game. What can they do specifically defensively? Is that the same way that you see this playing out?
Without a doubt, and I think it comes down to one guy, and that's Shaka Toney. You know, anytime you get in big-time games, you have to have your best players step up, and he's their best pass rusher. As good as Justin Fields has looked so far this season, his Achilles heel going back to 2019 is he holds the football. He's so talented, he thinks he can make every play, that he'll hold it and try to let Chris Olave or somebody come open down the field. If he holds it too long, can Shaka Toney get to him and create a turnover, a sack fumble? That'll be key. Penn State is going to need a negative play or a special team score or defensive touchdown, something big to help them. They got to get their own energy going. Happy Valley, no 100,000, no whiteout. Can they create a negative play and create their own energy? That's going to be huge tonight.
What effect, if any, in your mind does last week have in Penn State's mind? I mean, they obviously everybody was stunned by the outcome. So how do the guys react?
Well, it's really simple. Football players are creatures of habit, and we're used to going in, you watch the tape, you learn from it, and you put it to the side and you move on. It's a new week. It's kind of like the season keeps coming. It's a new test. And so if you're Penn State, you make the biggest improvement. Football teams, it's cliche, but everybody says it, from week 1 to week 2. And I think if you're James Franklin, you got to hope that they can make a drastic improvement in the small things. Penalties, too many penalties last week. Turning the football over. If they can just clean up penalties and turnovers, I think they'll make this game a second-half game. And if you do that, then you have an opportunity to make a play. You can turn the tide in your favor.
We saw that the Nittany Lions essentially dominated the stat sheet when it came to team statistics. And we know that Sean Clifford being at the center of all of that is a major part of that. We also know that staying on schedule is paramount for that offense in order to make a little bit of headway on that Ohio State defense as well. How do they go about doing that, Boog?
Well, I think they're going to have to create a running game somehow. It can't just be Sean Clifford. Can they run the football? Can the offensive line control the line of scrimmage against that really talented Ohio State defensive line? If they can do that, you can shorten the game. You can limit the possessions that this explosive Ohio State offense led by Justin Fields and Chris Olave, all those weapons, Master T, you can limit their possessions and shorten this game. Make it an ugly game. You don't want this game to be wide open and basketball on grass. You want this game to be won at the line of scrimmage, the physicality. Now, that's going to be tough to do. Penn State's missing some of the players, their top 2 running backs, no Journey Brown. Can they figure out a way to run the ball? I think they got to lean on their offensive line to do that tonight.
All right. You see, this is why you're the best, Boog, because you got all the smart stuff. So now we got to have a little fun. You are in great shape. By the way, for anyone that doesn't know, like, Booger McFarland crushes the Peloton game, right? So even though you're in great shape, it's Halloween. Like, is there a go-to Booger McFarland candy? Like, what's the candy selection like for you?
Reese's. Anything with Reese's Pieces, peanut butter. I'm a peanut butter fiend. Like, I grew up on the old school commodity peanut butter that didn't have a name. It was just in a white bucket that had peanut butter on the side. I grew up on that. And as I got older and I started making more money, then I tried different kinds. It was Skippy and Jif and all these different things. It was Jif Crunchy. And I've settled on just Jif, creamy, smooth. I don't need all natural. I don't need any peanut butter I got to mix up. I just need the regular Jif, creamy, and a spoon, and I can take it from there.
God, see, Booger and I like soulmates.
I was getting ready to say, you line up well with Fitz's candy selections that we talked about earlier today.
The number of times that I find myself, like, if I'm just sitting at home alone, like, I'll just grab the jar of peanut butter, open it, and just eat. Like, that's how bosses feast, right?
Hey, there's nothing better than that.
Ain't nothing wrong with it. Booger McFarland, enjoying the finer things in life, in candy, and in college football. We appreciate you joining the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G, bro.
Anytime, fellas. Y'all have a good one.
Thanks, Booger.
Let's keep it rolling here. Holy cow. The best of the best that the college football day has to offer, Fitz. And your favorite, we changed out the shot.
We change the graphic?
I know, yeah. The close-up.
Like, this is weird because now, like, usually the cow's facing us. Now I feel like the cow's sort of like farting on me. Like, I don't know what's happening here.
Well, there's like a couple skeleton hands, so it's like taking out people too. There's a lot going on
what's
here.
up with the spider? Like proportionally, that's a. No, I mean, think about a spider that's the size of a third of the rear end of a cow.
Well, I don't want to see that spider, Fitz. Dang it. The best of the best that college football had to offer. And Fitz, you mentioned it earlier in the show. We had a colleague have a very special moment on the broadcast today. That would be one Joe Tessitore. He was on the call for the Clemson BC game, and his son got to do a little something special.
As they split out, Danny Dalton's a fake. Tessitore is under center on 4th and 2, and he got him to come off sides. John Tessitore came up and played quarterback at the last second, and they may get a first down out of this. And throwing up from prep quarterback, receiver, he's pulled off multiple fakes.
Defense with contact. 5-yard penalty results in the first down.
I love that Joe Tess tried to give the background as if he was like a completely unbiased individual in all this. No, that's your son. You can gloat all you want to, and in the very next play, BC would capitalize on an incredible catch to reel that one in, and it started just the Herculean effort that the Boston College Eagles had in the very first half of that game against Clemson. We all know the result, but we're here to just celebrate the very beginning. C.J. Lewis shouts to him, and I just, based off the strength of the call itself, yes, that's 100.
Got the double move.
That's 100.
Yeah, look,
it ain't no question about that.
If anybody deserves a double 100, it is Joe Tess, who's not only one of the nicest guys we have here, but to have that moment's incredible. All right, next up. Travis Etienne can't grip the handoff, fumbles it away. Brandon Sebastian goes 97 yards. Scoopsy potatoes.
I'm so tired watching this. Like, that puts me out of commission.
He's just running and running and running. Full Forrest Gump right there.
Hey, what we're not going to do is chart this fumble to Travis Etienne. I refuse to do that. That handoff was at his throat, and I will not accept. Now, see, I don't think.
I'm giving this a score, by the way, 50.
But who is that on? Who are you giving a 50 right now?
Look, on the play in general, like, okay, the ball lands on the ground, you pick it up, you ran 97 yards. Woo.
But you just sat there and said that, like, you don't have the lung capacity to do half of that running. So, like, how are you going to sit here and charge him and tax him for being able to complete the yardage that you would never be able to complete?
Just saying, like, what did he do? He picked up a football and ran 97 yards with it. All right, next play. Now, let me go with this one. See, now, Georgia Tech's defense had to get after it. Kyron Williams, Zamari Walton gets this here. Look at that, 93 yards. Okay. This one's a little different.
What's different about it?
Please educate me. The play is different because it took some work to get the ball out. Like, I'll give you a little bit of extra points here because you had to get the ball out. I'm giving you a 68.
This makes
68
no sense.
on this one.
None of this makes sense.
All that happened on the other one was a bad handoff, and the ball lands there, and you're like, oh, I think I'll take this and run with it. On this, at least there was a moment of like, I want the ball, I will take the ball, and then you go with it.
No, all of that is bad.
You marvel at my greatness.
Terrible scoring. I would like to actually show you how to properly score a play.
Okay, perfect.
Courtesy of Brady White to Taj Washington. Boosters. And you touched on it when we did the highlight earlier. This celebration, the little subtle track lean, that's how you know, that's how you let the folks know that you were moving on this. And again, so we see so many times cats that like try to flex a little bit and drop the ball as they're going into the end zone. More often than not, it ends up being a fumble. This is a much cleaner crossing the goal line celebration. And for that reason, we're going to score it as well. Like, I think that because of the speed that we saw on display there and the NFL caliber of the play, right? I think we can give this a real solid score of about an 83.
I'm giving it an 83.
I don't mind an 83 there,
I like
right?
the 83. I like the
Okay,
83.
cool.
Okay, before we get to the next play, quick update. We are now headed to overtime, it looks like, between Oklahoma State and Texas. We will keep you updated on that. And in the meantime, Trevor?
Yes, Desmond Ridder to Alec Pierce. And this one going up and over the top. We saw a little bit of this in that Cincy highlight. A 43-yard score.
Da-da-da-da-da. Inspector Gadget.
Oh, that was a good reference. I'll take that. I'll allow it.
Go Gadget
I'll allow
arms.
it. Score for this one. I got about an 80.
Okay.
And I think that's a solid grade. Again, like just standard play in a lot of different minds, but athletic nonetheless. I don't want to dock him for that, but B- feels appropriate.
Okay, I'll give you an 80 on that. Let's get to the next play here, and I'm going to have a little fun. Let's see if you like this judge here.
Go ahead.
Kansas State quarterback Will Howard sends a pass downfield. West Virginia safety Sean Mahomes makes an incredible interception here.
Run that back.
Look at this. Here's the thing that amazes me is that he gets up, he gets the ball, and right there, the hand strength to be able to say, no, sir, even with your forearm, you will not take this ball from me.
Right.
That was the most impressive part of this play.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like he's got those little squeezy balls like at his locker where he can get like his hand strength up because
Phrasing, by the way. Phrasing.
Let's just moving right on. I will score that an 83. I'll just see myself out. That's good. It's been a heck of a run at ESPN. An 83, I'll give that one.
TCU brings us our final. Holy cow play. LaKendrick Van Zant managed to just get a little toe tap in for the interception. Fitz still rolling on the last one. He can't contain himself. Just the lack of professionalism next to me on this show is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I don't know why I have to stand for it. But if I may actually assess this play, an incredible effort from the Horned Frogs defensive back. And again, being able to get your feet right and everything, look, that's solid. We'll give it an 83. I respect the effort more than anything. Are you good?
I'm good.
You back with us? You back with us?
I think
I just wanted to let you know. I just had to let you know.
Oh man, stress thingies.
Yes. Stress test.
Okay. I got nothing. But yeah, you scored a play that was great.
That's great. That's great.
It was well done.
We might as well keep the laughs going. We were from the good of the good. Let's get the jokes off. The jokes portion of this here program off. Bruh is the name of the segment and begins down at Georgia State. Not a whole lot went right for the Panthers, but here, Blake Carroll ends up throwing a haymaker on the back end of this here play. So that's an ejection if I've ever seen one. It's pretty easy, but hold on now.
I mean, they called me.
They got him the personal foul, right? But no, you're not ejected for this right straight that you threw and knocked the man's mouthpiece out.
Like, at what point there has to be some common sense level of replay in general in college football where you're like, bruh, whoa, we missed that. Let's fix it. That's terrible.
Without question. And I don't really know what's going on here because
it's a dance.
But is it because I can't imagine not one song that has that rhythm? Can you sing a song right now?
Staying alive.
Nope, he's off beat there too.
Well, I never thought rhythm was going to be there. Well,
and they're just the boos raining down here. I will always laugh at booing fans. I just find that hilarious. Next up, the sack celebration that we started this here program off with.
This is Thriller.
My Jay Sanders. Woo! Be careful. Again, licensing issues. You can't sing too much of that song. Just like be careful. I think no more lines from it. But yes, that is a song.
Wait, what if I go, if this is scary? Okay, perfect. Oh, man.
So here is just one of the most incredible moments that we had before a game even started. 33 players for Northwestern. 33 players for Northwestern listed as inactive. And it goes back to the COVID discussion that we have constantly that is necessary in this sport, and that you can decimate your roster courtesy of contact tracing and all the necessary protocols that you're following. And this is what puts you in such a massive bind as a program.
Well, let's also acknowledge, Wisconsin still has no idea if they're going to be able to play next weekend because the outbreak continues to
Correct.
spread.
6 more cases as of this morning.
And one of the things I find interesting with Clemson is that while it's only Trevor Lawrence for right now, Will it spread? We don't know. We hope it won't, obviously, but that's just the variable that nobody can know about now.
No, man, yeah, absolutely. And again, I understand that, like, bruh, is a bit of a jokey joke sort of segment, but this is like something that is truly, it's mind-boggling in a lot of different ways. And so that's just something that we had to make sure we showed y'all. Northwestern, by the way, in their game against Iowa, frankly, a valiant effort. Down 20-7 here, but here Drake Anderson gets this pass off, makes two defenders slide across the field. We just got to run this here back.
The breaks here on the play, I mean,
right.
Just incredible. Look at this. Goes
gets
over.
The pass off.
Like, I'm going to run. Stop! And then comes back in.
See, that play in and of itself gets Northwestern inside the 10-yard line, and then in the third quarter, they would cash in after scoring on that drive. We're waiting on the call, and there it is.
I mean, this is unbelievable after what you just showed. And by the way, this is later in the game as Iowa's trying to get it done.
And in the fourth quarter, just under 7 to go, Spencer Petras, pass intercepted by Bryce Gallagher, returned for 3 yards. Northwestern ends up winning this one 29-21.
How many inactives?
33 inactives.
33 inactives in Northwestern went out and beat Iowa. First and foremost, congratulations to Northwestern. That takes a lot of guts and a lot of fight from the kids that are on that team to go out and perform to that level. But secondly, it's a reminder of what every single team is up against this year. And you never know what size roster you're going to have, who's going to be playing every week. That's what's making this such an entertaining but challenging year for college football, because how you even know what to expect going in and day out is just, it's an impossible.
Practicing a good bit of cognitive dissonance in order to enjoy this stuff every single week. This is the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G. Trevor Scales, Jason Fitz with you, and the billboard behind us tells you exactly what we finna get into. We have a live look-in available to us. We also have that primetime matchup between Ohio State and Penn State that we will check in on. We can go wherever y'all want to. We'll let the control room dictate where we go from here. We'll go right over to Penn State. They are in Happy Valley hosting Ohio State. Have the ball on their own bat. 45-yard line, driving against the Buckeyes, and we'll see what they can do staying on schedule offensively, Fitz.
Important, too, because as you can see from the score, Ohio State's already up 7-0. And this is just what you like you heard Booger say earlier. You don't want to get into a track meet. You don't want to make it basketball on grass. But you got to match score for score. So that deep shot there is of tremendous significance. I understand that you want to take your shots when you can. But that brings up a 4th and 2. So you're about to give Justin Fields the ball back already down 7-0.
But I mean,
unless they choose to go for it.
That's what I was getting ready to say. It feels like when you're in that range, right near midfield, if it's 4th and short, I don't see why you don't with your offense. If you believe that you're potent enough to kind of keep things going, understand that it's 4-down territory, and understand that you can make this happen should you be able to execute properly. We see Sean Clifford under duress. What they needed to do against Justin Fields, they are unable to prevent from the Buckeye defense turnover on downs, and they take over going the other way.
Yeah, and that's why I'm not a fan. And, I've had this debate a bunch with some of our friends about, what to do when you're around midfield. I'm a fan of playing some level of field position game. We saw Mel Tucker do it a few times today with Michigan State, and a lot of people didn't like it. But if you believe in your defense, you do. And, there's a spot for me here where what I'm seeing now is you just gave Justin Fields less than 50 yards to go, and the opportunity to just automatically put you well behind in this. So I get it. I get the want to be aggressive. I don't necessarily love the back-to-back play call, a deep pass and then a pass where you didn't have a quick out.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing here, right? Play selection in these instances, if you know you're going to go for it, has to be A1. You have to be on top of it, and you have to make executable plays that will get you the yardage that is necessary. So Ohio State takes over from the plus 45 in this instance, and they're rolling. Justin Fields has the opportunity to again, further his insertion into the Heisman conversation, knowing he came off of the performance that he did last week. Just a quick update as we're watching Ohio State, Penn State. This is a notice for everybody in Big 12 country. Those two teams in Oklahoma State and Texas are in overtime currently, and we will keep you updated there. But we also have the capability of looking in at Alabama, Mississippi State. That is going down on ESPN. You can log in, authenticate your cable provider there and everything like that. Mississippi State, an offense that has really just slowed all the way down. And it's just mystifying to see, given the level of production that we saw from them from week 1.
Well, and what everybody figured out is that what you need to do to defend this offense is rush 3 and drop everybody else back. And so the real question now, what perfect timing on that is you see what they're doing right now. The real question is what was going to be done by Alabama, because that hasn't necessarily been Alabama's path in the past. But I think we've sort of forgotten that Nick Saban, much like Bill Belichick, is capable of looking at it and saying, hey, how do I take the one thing that you want away from you? And that's exactly what we're seeing from Alabama. They're up 20-0 in this game, and Mike Leach has got to be frustrated that the SEC figured them out so quickly.
A massive part about staying on schedule as an offense is keeping yourself in manageable third downs. We saw that Mississippi State 0 for 4 on third down to this point. It doesn't help when you get yourself in 3rd and 14 situations like this one. And now we see the injury to the quarterback that was starting perceivably to this point, and we're in a whole other dynamic of just screwed basically for the Bulldogs, where you can barely run your offense with your starting guy there. But we switch back to Penn State, Ohio State.
Yeah, Justin Fields got the ball here. Ohio State, if you were just tuning in, got the ball on their plus yardage territory, and they're able to get the first down conversion here.
Money
they
down.
Continue to drive down, and let's be real. I mean, this is worst case scenario for Penn State. You don't want to drop down 14-0. I mean, that's common sense analysis. I understand it, but this is sort of where they are.
But it does go so far as to say, like, they know that they can't play from behind against this team, right? Like, this is not a team that you're going to be able to just count on slowing down by any stretch of the imagination. They and the Buckeyes are going to open this thing up, and before you know it, you're down 21-0, and you're going to have to hand over the sticks like if you were playing Madden. Like, that's how this game goes if you can't get a stop.
Well, if you're going to be aggressive, you better get it when you are. And so I'm going to say that on both sides of the ball, because we saw aggressive play calling. They had the deep pass down the sideline on 3rd and 2. It just missed. On 4th and 2, they couldn't get the thing done. Now they give the ball to Ohio State. And what did we just see there? You saw a corner blitz. The corner came up on the blitz, and it left the wide receiver wide open to be able to go ahead and get that ball and move downfield. If you're going to be aggressive, which I think you need to be if you're Penn State, you better get home when you are, because otherwise, if this is going to turn into home runs and strikeouts, I believe they're going to strike out far more than they're going to hit homers.
3 plays for 75 yards in their opening drive to get 7 on the board, and we have another big play to kind of close this drive out for the Ohio State Buckeyes. So everything that Booger said they need to do, they are not finding a way to do that, and that is a recipe for disaster for this Penn State program that is hoping to get something done and make some noise in this Big Ten conference.
Well, and both of these games that we've had this look in, an opportunity to sort of get you caught up on, are a reminder of one really important thing to me, Trevor, and that's that there are a few really good teams in college football this year. And the rest of everybody else right now seems to be sorting themselves out. So when you talk about Clemson, and yeah, they put themselves in a hole, but then all they did was straight 80s pro wrestling, get themselves out of it. Like, arm dropped, and then it shook, and next thing you know, all you did was make Hulk mad, and he gets the leg drop, and bam, gets the win, right? So then what you've got is Alabama just running all over Mississippi State, and you have Ohio State out to the quick early lead. I don't think that's a statement about all of the opponents. I think it's a statement that there are a few really great teams in college football, and they look like it. Everybody else looks like they're chasing their tail.
That is a perfectly fine assessment of what's going down. As we close this thing out, the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G. New element, one thing before we get up out of here, and we got one play for you. Fire it up, go ahead, take me to the end of this here show. Woo! Excuse me. I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm all kinds of confused. Oh, here we go. Mississippi High School football. South Pike needed a touchdown and a 2-point conversion to force OT against North Pike. Cam Reynolds decided to put his team on his back. Take off.
You can't stop him. You can only try and contain him.
No. Yes. Let's go. Woo! All the way to the crib. Did they get the 2-point? The bubble screen on second down. He was all kinds of trapped, but he found a way to get in there. So they would end up converting the 2-point conversion, send it into OT, but North Pike would end up getting the win. But we have to show
How mad are you? How mad are you when you get to the locker room and you're like, I did all that?
Hey, No, you know what you do? You walk into the locker room and say, it ain't my fault. You ain't going to sit here and blame me. All y'all need to figure it out.
That's what Trevor says most weeks after we finish the show. He looks at me and says, it ain't my fault.
Well, my fault. This has been the College Football Show presented by AT&T 5G. We appreciate you joining us. Trevor Scales, Jason Fitz, everybody up in the control room. We have you covered on Saturdays. By the way, it begins 8:30 a.m. Eastern with Countdown to Game Day. Jason Fitz, Christine Williamson holding you down. 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern. We get you caught up on all the things that have gone down, and we get you ready for that primetime matchup that leads you into the wrap-up. Again, myself, Gary Streisky, and Christine Williamson holding you down in the evening. So that'll do it for this week. We'll see y'all again, same time, same place, next week.
Happy birthday, Mama Scales.
Happy birthday, Mama Scales, indeed.